Alright, let's talk about space. So, you know, I'm always interested in like space and like moons, planets, different spaceships. It interests me in a way like life on different Earth, like life on different planets, not Earths, but different planets. Like it's always like fascinating to me. And like, is there people actually out there? Like aliens, different plant lives. They actually like found like different like plants and stuff on different planets. So you can basically say that there's different like aliens on different planets, but like I want to say like actual smart like human like aliens on different planets. But I believe there's aliens out there sometimes. Like it's just the universe is too big for it not to be. To me, the universe is way too big for it not to be like aliens on different planets. But get into the comments below and tell me if you think there's such thing as aliens. Tell me if you think they're real or not. But today I'm going to be reacting to the Mars rover, the crash course, and let's see what they're talking about on here. Let's go.
If you look right behind you, you'll see the center of the universe. And the reason it's called the center of the universe is because that's NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And all of the orbiters.
Oh yeah, I always wanted to work for NASA. NASA was my dream job. Like when I was younger. Now, I might want to work for NASA still. Like if they gave me a job, they make mega buckets.
Probes
Mega
and
buckets.
spacecraft we've sent out into the solar system and beyond send all their signals right back here to be processed. And that will never be more apparent than in a few days when the next Mars rover named Perseverance concludes its 7-month journey to our neighboring red planet Mars, autonomously navigating itself for a terrifying
7 months to
7
get to
minutes, traveling
Mars.
from 15 times the speed of a bullet to a gentle 3 miles per hour touchdown, all while live streaming the key data the whole way down. And as many of you know, for me, this is like coming home, because long before I started making YouTube videos, I came here to work every day for 9 years, 7 of which were working on the last rover we sent to Mars named Curiosity. So today we're going to talk to some of my old friends and see the actual rover up close as I bring you up to speed on everything you need to know about this rover landing. Because once you have an overview of what's going to happen and what it even took to get us to this point, I feel certain you're going to feel just as pumped about this historic landing as I am. And to accomplish that,
I'm always
we're going to
pumped
talk about
about like
who, what, why, where,
landing
and how of
rovers.
this
I'm always
work.
pumped
We'll
about
start
it.
with the why and the where we're going. 3.5 billion years ago, Earth and Mars were pretty similar. Both had liquid water at the surface, and both were protected from the sun's radiation with magnetic fields. And so it begs the question, if life first developed on Earth at that time, could it have also developed on Mars? So this is a massive lake in Jezero Crater billions
Big
of
question.
years ago. And this is it now. This is where Perseverance is landing. The bottom of an ancient lake the size of Lake Tahoe, because using Earth as a guide, at the base of a river of fresh water is where scientists believe we have the best chance of finding evidence of past biological life onArs. So thanks to Perseverance, we could be on the verge of
That'd be crazy if they like figured out like it was actually like
outside our planet.
life on Mars before Earth.
This tight shows how NASA is constantly advancing its technologies. With Florida for scale, here's an oval showing the uncertainty of the landing spot for previous missions: Pathfinder in 1997, and then Phoenix in 2008, Curiosity in 2012, and now Perseverance. Being able to shrink down a landing target just gives you way more options of interesting places to land. Plus, once you do land and start driving towards the actual science location, it can shave off a year or more of drive time. And not only does studying Mars like this help us understand Earth's past and future, but the rovers we're sending are the advanced scouts, taking data and notes for us on the ground and sending all the info back to Earth. They're also testing some new technologies, which I'll cover in a second, that humans will need to use.
It takes so long for like sending it back to Earth, man. I want to know this like stuff like right now. They'll tell us this stuff anyways.
And if none of that gets
I always wanted to know this
and you're
stuff.
like, but Mark, why would we spend resources and time exploring the solar system when we still have big issues here on this Earth we haven't solved? I tackle that exact question, giving
The ocean is on like
not to invest in
5% of the ocean discovered right now.
after this one. So that's the where and the why. Now let's talk about how we're going to do all that, because this is where it gets really wild. Meet Perseverance. And I should mention, I have
$1 billion.
my videos
That's how.
planned out about a year in advance, which is why exactly this time last year, I knew for this video I needed to fly down to check out the Rover right before it got shipped off to Florida to be launched. But before I checked out the Rover, I first stopped in
Year in advance for a video. God.
When I was here, he was leading a small team that designed the jetpack that lowered the Rover to the ground. But now I heard he's all fancy, in charge of like 400 people, so I wanted to get a sense of how things had changed for him. So anyone we see walk by, you can like boss them around? About this guy right here. You can boss him around?
Yeah, I can boss him around.
Okay, cool. Go on. We first geeked out for a bit over a bunch of examples of parts
Boss
from
you
previous
around.
space missions. And a hardware wall like this is just a great illustration of what makes JPL such a cool place to work. Actually, I designed this. This is my hardware from Grail with Andy. This was cool because you got these like flexures for like temperature variation. So this isn't just for show. This is like literally when you're trying to figure out a way to do things. These are examples of how it's been done before, right?
Right, and a lot of these are made by examples of this is the way you shouldn't do it.
Oh, so that's why my hardware.
That's why your hardware's up there, right?
And so after that, we headed down to check out the Rover and meet up with my friend Emily. But before we could just go in and see it, we had to get suited up because the Rover is looking for signs of biological life, and we don't want to contaminate our samples before we even arrive. So a bunny suit and air shower can go a long way. Emily, by the way, was the vehicle assembly lead for the descent and cruise stages, which is a big responsibility. This is the Rover.
The Flight Rover. It will be on Mars 12 months from now.
It's so complex when you come up and get this close. In fact, Perseverance is the most complex thing humans have ever built and sent to another planet. It's got laser,
complex,
X-ray,
man.
and radar capabilities, plus 19 cameras, and a nuclear-powered battery system for energy. And while it might look pretty similar to the past Rover Curiosity, all the science instruments are completely different because the science objectives have
So
changed.
crazy, man. Like I feel like this should have been like have so much more like of Mars like discovered by now with all the trips they took there. But like I know that it takes a lot to get like it takes a lot to get into it. So I don't really feel that way that no more.
Past signs of life using the most state-of-the-art instruments on Earth that we could never fit on a rover. So then to capture that chalk-sized rock sample, not only is there an arm on the outside, but this time there's one on the inside too.
It is a miniature robot arm inside the body of the rover that manipulates the sample tube. And there's one right here.
Wow. And so is this what you leave behind?
Exactly.
Is it fair to say this is like the poop of the rover?
Exactly.
Okay. Do you like that analogy? Because they didn't like it earlier.
Yeah.
You like it? Okay, cool.
We do like to say that the rover is going to poop out samples.
Okay, good. See, that's a good analogy. So
his job cool. He's going up, having fun, doing what he likes. Yeah, that's cool.
The poop, scoop, and shoot maneuver. This is my friend Liz, by the way, and she's in charge of all the testing for the sample retrieval system.
We're doing things that nobody else does, so we have to test it.
So she tests all sorts of different configurations in a chamber that recreates the extreme temperatures and pressures to make sure it will function on Mars. Because once you send something to space, it's gone, and you can't exactly fix it, so it just has to work, which is why testing
That's so crazy.
is such a
Like,
big deal here at JPL.
like if anything goes wrong, like and it's in space, like if it like runs out of gas like halfway there, it's just gonna be floating in space forever. That's crazy to think about.
Then we use this one to test driving around obstacles and driving over rocks.
And he knows a thing or two about driving over rocks because he was a rover.
Oh yeah, and if it get like damaged on the way down, like they don't know, like it might be a storm in Mars and it just come down and it lands wrong, it's over. The whole $1 billion project just over. That's so crazy.
Stowed away on its underbelly named Ingenuity. This will be mankind's first powered flight on another planet, which sort of makes this a Wright brothers moment. And the rover and the drone will get great footage of each other, but we're mainly testing it out so that in the future we might use drones to scout out terrain for us or get samples from hard to reach locations, or you could have swarms of drones carrying materials for humans from one site to another. Perseverance is also testing out a new instrument called MOXIE that basically amounts to a mechanical tree because its function is to convert CO2 into oxygen, which future explorers will need to breathe and for rocket fuel.
The rover has been in this clean room for about a year and a half, starting as just a chassis, just the skeleton.
And then all the teams and engineers have been taking turns coming down and building up their part until it's done. In fact, I was in that exact position on Curiosity, designing my hardware for about 3.5 years, and when it was all tested and complete, integrating it on the rover right here in this room. And then for the other 3.5 years, like I mentioned before, I was working with Ben on a small team of engineers on the jetpack descent stage. So now we've covered
Why did that thing
the
look like an eye on the stove?
also the how we're gonna do all that with the rover. Now let's talk about the what. For what's gonna happen this Thursday when it lands and what you should expect to see. As I edit this video, the spacecraft is
Man, it's gonna land
diving
this
on Mars
Thursday?
at a cool 48,144 miles per hour. How fast is that? It's this fast. It's 15 times faster than a bullet. It's traveling the length of 100 soccer fields in exactly this long. And it will keep on that trajectory until the big moment on Thursday when it starts its entry, descent, and landing, or EDL. It's also known as the 7 minutes of tear because we've literally got 7 minutes to get from the top of the atmosphere to the surface of Mars, going from 13,000 miles per hour to 0 in perfect sequence and perfect timing, and the spacecraft has to do it all on its own with no help from us on Earth. When it first hits the upper atmosphere, the friction causes the heat shield to start glowing like the surface of the sun, all the while thrusters are firing to steer and adjust its course towards the target location. And
that's so crazy.
Of 99% of the energy. So for the last 1%, we deploy a supersonic parachute. Then we've got to pop off the heat shield we no longer need, like removing a lens cap, so the radar can start viewing the ground. But even with the parachute,
that's gone forever.
200 miles per hour, which is way too
well,
fast.
until we find a way to actually like get people on Mars.
But we can't quite land in this configuration because the rockets will kick up too much debris and damage the rover. So then we lower it from a 21-foot rope and gently land the rover on the surface as my sky crane zooms off to face an honorable, catastrophic ending as far away from the rover as its remaining fuel will carry it. And so in just 7 minutes, the spacecraft has completely metamorphosized, shedding all its sacrificial elements until you're left with just a rover sitting alone safely on the surface of Mars. Now, everything you just saw was a CGI animation, but a few days after landing, we'll all be blown away by actual HD landing footage from the 23 cameras and 2 microphones on board. We'll see the
I'm gonna watch that.
crunch of the aluminum wheels as they touch down and make contact with the Martian surface. And because Mars is so far away, to get a signal from the vehicle to our planet, it takes about 12 minutes at the speed of light. So that means after the spacecraft sends a signal that has reached the top of the atmosphere, by the time that signal reaches Earth to kick off the 7 minutes of tear, for at least 5 minutes, the vehicle has actually already been on the surface, either alive or dead, which is why it has to be autonomous. That means it makes all its own choices on the exact timing of things and where to steer without anyone from Earth controlling it, which means all we can do is watch and monitor and hope. And this is a good time to remember that as easy as these dedicated teams of engineers make it look, landing on Mars is really hard. Historically, only about half the attempts have been successful, but the willingness to take big risks to reap big rewards is the foundation on which NASA is built. The live stream to watch the landing starts on Thursday, February 18th at 11:15 a.m. Pacific. It will hit the top of the atmosphere an hour and a half later at 12:48 p.m., which starts the 7 minutes of tear, and we touch down at 12:55. I will leave a link to the live stream in the video description, as well as some other really cool sites, such as this video game-like demo where you can interactively experience the 7 minutes of tear in preparation for the landing. We covered the where and the why we're going. We covered the how.
That's so crazy, man. But consider me, like, I'm tuned into it, man. I'm gonna tune into it because I like seeing stuff like that. That's once in a lifetime, man. You get to see like a whole rover coming down on Mars and landing. Man, I'm gonna tune in for the 7 minutes. It's gonna be a wild 7 minutes. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. That was my thoughts on basically like outer space and like Mars rover. So tune in next time to my next video. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you like. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.